Thank you. The month of June is a month where all the people of the nation of Korea cannot forget. 56 years ago, there was a Korean War, 6/25, June 25th. And I promised during the first week of June that in the month of June, we need to, I would pray and preach not only about the patriotism of our country, but who would protect and defend this country. And I'm not saying that all we need to do is to pray and not do any work. We need to prepare in all different ways. 2 Kings chapter 6 verses 8 through 23. Matthew 21 verse 22. Mark chapter 11 verse 24. And in Matthew and Mark, Jesus himself said these verses. And through these passages, I'd like to share the message with the title, The Answer for Those Who Pray Believing. And the answer is the opening of the spiritual eyes. He will open the spiritual eyes. Today's passage is about the nation of Aram, the greatest strong nation of strength, the strong nation during that time. And their powers were so great. However, to them, this small nation of Israel always became a stumbling block. Always saying, the Lord Jehovah is the only God, all the other gods are idols, and so on. And they didn't want to hear that. And so, the king of the Arameans, he was a great king, very wicked. And he wanted to just uproot Israel and just dry them out to the very seed. And so he gathered his governors, the generals, and started and had a strategic plan to destroy Israel. But in Israel there was a prophet of God named Elisha. And all the words that the king said, and all the words that his servants said, the man of God, Elisha, had already received and heard that through the revelation of God, and told his king, saying, "O hail the king, this is what the Aramean king is planning and plotting against to attack our country. But do not worry, let us go beforehand and defend and prepare to defend the country." And every time they try to come in, they prepared and destroyed them. And so every plan they made became a failure. And according to the Bible, this king of Arameans was very troubled in his heart. And he said, there must be a spy amongst our servants, amongst our people. And he gathered everybody, and he scolded them. And one of his servants said, "O king, that is not so. My lord, O king." But Elisha, the prophet who is in Israel, he's the one who tells the king of Israel, every time he prays to their God, he even knows the words and the things that the thoughts of you, king, that you said in your bedroom. And he was surprised. What? The things that I think in my heart on my bed, he knows even those? Yes, he does. The Lord Jehovah God tells him all those things. put away that BS, and that doesn't make sense to me. And so he said, let's go get him. And he involved all the forces that he had, the high-tech weapons, and he said, where is that prophet Elisha? And they answered him, he is in Dothan. Now, during the time of Jacob, his 11 sons went out to shepherd and tend their flock. And the father Jacob said to Joseph, I wonder where they are. And he sent Joseph to find his brothers, and they met him, and he met them in Dothan, and that's where they caught him and sold him. And this is the same place. And with all these weapons and forces, he sent to Elisha and surrounded him. And in the morning, Prophet Elisha's servant's name was Gehazi. And he went out in the morning, and not only thousands, but tens of thousands with greatest weapons were surrounding Elisha that he was serving, and his house. And he was so scared, and he came in saying, "Oh Lord, there's a big problem here. Oh prophet, we're like a rat in a little jar. What do we do? We're surrounded." And Elisha, who was praying in a little cave that they have carved in, he said, "Don't worry, come sit down here. You shouldn't. Don't fear. Do not fear. The hundreds of thousands of soldiers are surrounding us from the country of Aram. Oh yes, that is true. That is right. Don't worry, because the angels and chariots of heaven are more than those who are with him." And so Gehazi, whose spiritual eyes were not opened, do you think he was able to believe that? And what does it say according to verses 15 and the following? And in verse 17 he said, "O Lord God, my servant Gehazi is so troubled in fear that he is shaking, trembling. And so I pray, open his eyes." Through what? Through prayer. All those of you who are listening to this message, how hard is it to run a business? Whether it is a big company or a small store. In order to do a business, especially the people who have hundreds and thousands of people under him, they have big headaches. And so I urge you to listen to this message, and please do not doubt in your heart. Why? Because Mark chapter 11 verse 24, towards the end, it says, if you pray without doubt, you will receive it. And Matthew chapter 21 verse 22, Jesus himself said this. All things you ask in prayer, believing, you will receive. But people do not believe in God, and they don't trust in God, although even when they pray. And so they become like King Asa and doubt him. And I'm not saying just don't do anything, but first bow down to God, and we have to sincerely pray to God. Let's say you're in a big trouble, great trouble, and many problems, and these problems cannot be solved by our strength, by human beings. And so come before God saying, "God, I'm about to meet this person. Please work with me and work in me." And I pray to you, God. Pray sincerely like that. On your knees, bowing down to God. When King Solomon and King David, when they were in trouble, did they pray on their chairs? It was for Daniel also. It was in a situation where the nation would fall, his family would fall. Didn't Nathan say that? Although you did it in hiding, all your wives and concubines will be raped in broad daylight. Do you think King David would not do anything after hearing that? In front of Prophet Nathan, he fell down to the ground, to the floor, and in tears he repented. And so King David said to God said to the King David, because of his sincere repentance and prayer, God himself said, other than sinning with Uriah's wife Bathsheba, David does not have any other sins. And so, what is the joy of Pyeonggang Church's senior pastor? It is the prosperity. It is the prosperity of the congregation of Pyeonggang Church. Their souls. Is this church registered under my name? I would never do that. When I leave, I will leave everything here. And so, please listen carefully to what I'm saying. Second Kings, in today's passage, chapter 6, verse 16. Verse 11, it says, verse 12, it says, he tells a king of Israel the words that you speak in your bedroom. There's such a person? Oh, so then, where is that man, Elisha? Oh, he's in Dothan. For example, if it's LA or whatever city it is, he's in there. He's there. Oh yeah? Okay. He commanded the commander-in-chief in today's term, and gathered all the military forces. And they surrounded the little house there. And Gehazi went out and saw that. He said, "Oh, we're dead now. Oh, alas, my master, what shall we do?" In horror and terror and desperation. But Elisha said, first thing, do not fear, for those who are with us are more than the millions and thousands of soldiers from that the Aramean king sent. And open your eyes. And he opened his eyes, and he saw mountains full of horses and chariots of fire, all protecting Elisha. Believers, look at what the North Koreans are doing, coming down to South Korea. Look at what they're doing. Oh, we might shoot the missiles. They just haven't waken up yet. But the South Korea, please believe that there are many people who believe and pray to God. I believe God. I don't doubt. God is the God who makes from nothing, and He gives life and takes away life. Let us read about that in the Bible. Let's look. 1 Samuel chapter 2, verses 6 and the following. 1 Samuel chapter 6. First Samuel chapter 2, verse 6. The Lord kills and makes alive. He brings down to Sheol and raises up. The Lord makes poor and rich. He brings low and He also exalts. He raises the poor from the dust. It says, repeat after me. God is a God of authority. And so then, Korea, although we're in a difficult situation and we don't have very good national defense, but they God will not forgive them. I'm not saying it from physical point of view, but in my heart I say, hey, do whatever you want, but you're only playing like little kids. And so pray for yourselves, for your family, and for your business. All you have to do is pray. And this is how I pray for the souls of our congregation. I say, God, no matter, even if they lose everything, please allow them to keep and not lose their faith in God, their souls. And when that happens, everything will go well. Alas, my Lord, my Master, what shall we do? In fear and in Gehazi, who was caught up in fear and terrified. Did the prophet lay his hand and shake him around? No, he just prayed, God, please open his eyes that he may see. And he opened his eyes and he saw, and more than the Aramean soldiers that were surrounding Elisha, there were more of the angels and chariots of fire from heaven protecting him. And so he was able to find peace. It's an amazing, mind-boggling reality here. It's supernatural, superseding our senses. It goes over our mind, our thoughts, our norms. And look at how God supernaturally works here. And so the Aramean soldiers, hundreds of thousands of soldiers came, and look at Elisha. He prayed that his servant's eyes would be opened, right? And then the second prayer is for God to strike the people strike the soldiers of the Aramean soldiers with blindness, from the general commander to all the soldiers. And at that moment, look at how God listens to the prayers of Prophet Elisha. That God is a God of Pyeonggangjil church members. Please believe that. And so you don't have to worry. Worries and concerns cause the sin of killing people. And so, rather than worrying and concerning, all we have to do is to give it up to God. We cannot do that because we cannot believe. And we have to look forward to the world of God that is not limited by time and space. I mean, how is it possible for all the people, all those hundreds of thousands of people to become blind at once? But he prayed then, and they became like little children. And although the Bible doesn't say this, they had to hold hands or with ropes or sticks, follow each other, hold on to each other and follow. And after leading them to Samaria, the man of God prayed again, God, please, oh Lord, open their eyes. And they opened their eyes, and they were back to their land, Samaria. And this is not a cartoon, or this is not a fiction. This is a reality. This is a reality of those who believe and pray. So pray. We have to pray. And among the elders in our choir, there's an elder named Hodang. And there was a time when I was in the States, and about 200 people from the choir came to meet me, and there were 10, and they sat by tens on the tables, dinner time, and I was going around to say thank you, and I saw a young woman, and I saw that she had a cancer on her breast cancer. So I told her, you have cancer, and all you have to do is to go back. When you go back to Korea, go to the hospital, and you just have to take that out. and she didn't really believe, and I didn't even know whose wife that was. I said, when I tell you, believe. And did I see your breast when I said that? No. When the man of God says something, believe it, and go to the hospital and check it out. And later I realized that she was a wife of Elder Hodang. And so she went to a general hospital and got tested, and the doctor said she does have a breast cancer. And the doctor said, who told you that you have cancer? It's hard to find. And she said, my senior pastor told me. And the doctor said, we wish that your pastor would come and work at our hospital. And so when I tell you even the name, and do you think I'm lying about that? I'm not trying to boast. I'm not saying only I can do it. Those who pray can do that. If in a family, if the husband and wife both become men and women of prayer, that family is blessed. That family is a blessed family. And so, even when we don't pray, or when we can't pray, the angels serve us, and the angels protect those who, according to Hebrews chapter 1 verse 14, those who, and chapter 6 verse 14, those who have received Jesus and have received salvation and received atonement for, and those who truly believe, the angels protect us. Psalm 34 verse 7 tells us that. Now, am I saying something that's not in the Bible? If I say that I've dreamed about it or received a revelation and I say something that's not in the Bible, you don't have to believe it. But here, you have to listen carefully to what I'm saying. You have to believe in the Bible. Believe the Bible. Is that a lie? It's in Psalms. I'll read it for you. Psalm 34 verse 7. The angel of the Lord, the messengers of the Lord, encamps around those who fear Him. It says they encamp around them to protect them and rescues them. Daniel was thrown into a lion's den. And Daniel was. Because he did not bow down to the idol. And so he was thrown in. And Daniel's 3 friends also did not bow down to the idol, the statue. And the king commanded them to make the fire pit 7 times as hot as normal. And they were thrown in, and one of the servants saw, and the 3 friends were tied down when they were thrown into the fire, and their hands were free. 3 were thrown in, but there were 4 people coming back and forth in the fire. They were not burnt. They didn't even have burning smell, and reported it to God. O king! But out of the 4, one person did not seem like a man. And he looked like a spirit. And the king came out and pulled them out and threw in all the other mockers. And he confessed that the God of Israel is the only God in this world. Daniel chapter 6 verse 22. Daniel himself said this. God, in order to protect me, sent his angels and sealed the mouth of all the lions. Daniel chapter 6 verse 22, Daniel bowed down and knelt down before God, before King Nebuchadnezzar, and reported that to the king, that God sent his angels and sealed up the mouths of the lions. And so, when I really, if I curse you or swear at you, the angels will immediately go up to God and report it to Him, saying, "Hey, that fat pastor from Pyeonggang Church was cursing at his congregation." Oh yeah, and it gets written in the books. Matthew chapter 18 verse 10 tells us this. And so don't curse and don't talk and don't say bad things about other people. Even no matter what kind of sins we may commit, He sent His Son to forgive. And with what authority do we curse people that God Himself has forgiven? And so even Jesus, hey, you say you're God? Are you really the God that we believe in? You said you save people? Hey, why don't you bring down your angels to destroy us? And Jesus said, if I really, as you say, I can do that. When I pray, each division has about 10,000. Each army corps has about 10,000 to 20,000. And Jesus said, I can bring 12 divisions down all at the same time. I say in Matthew chapter 26 verse 3. And in a different general Bible translation it says, when I ask God, Matthew chapter 26 verse 53, it says, if I ask my Father, He will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels. All of you who have received forgiveness to your sins, do not worry. And when people hear that they're sick and they're going to die, they shake in fear. But Jesus destroyed the power of death and resurrected from death. And John chapter 11 verses 25 and 26, He said, truly I say to you, I am resurrection and life. Those who believe in me and die will be resurrected, and those who live and believe in me will never see death. And at the end He said, do you believe this? We have to believe that. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, Apostle Paul said to the church of Corinth, he said He destroyed death. Now, stores have their items in categories, and Satan sells death as stores sell their items. Satan sells death, but Jesus came and destroyed all of death, totally, completely, and the store of death had to shut its doors, close. And so I died because of my sins, but please believe that He took away our sins. Why then do you fear? Why do you shake in fear? Even when we pass away, we have to go in thanksgiving rather than in fear and terror. And I've seen hundreds of people who just shake in fear before their death. And so, beloved believers, Elisha and when Elisha was old, God said, you need to come to me now. And God made him sick, not for too long, but for a little bit. And the king sent his own doctor, physician, to him. And during the time of King Joash, and King Joash came to Elisha and said, my father. Why? Because he's desperate now. When Elisha was there, he knew what country would come and attack, but there was nobody to give him that information when he dies. And because of Elisha, the country was in peace for over 10 years, tens of years, in peace without any wars. And he was the defense, the weapon, the chariots of Israel. And he said, and Elisha was dying in his bed, and he said, "Oh, the king, you have come." And Elisha said, "Do you have a bow and arrow? And bring it." And on his deathbed, he said to the king, "Shoot it out the window." And he shot it towards the fence again and again, and 3 times. And Elisha scolded him, although he was about to die. Why? Why didn't you shoot it until I said stop? Why did you stop? O king, you will only overcome your enemies when they come in 3 times, and after that you will lose. In 2 Kings chapter 13, he prophesied that, and it happened according to the prophecy. When the man of God, even when he's dying, he's a man of God. Other people, before they die, people say, "Hey, don't listen to the man who's about to die. He's out of his senses. He's out of his mind." And when people are dying, and people may say, "Hey, how can you listen to that prophet that's about to die? He's out of his mind. He cannot even control himself." But the prophecy of Elisha, who was dying, even though he was dying, he was still God, the man of God. And so, according to his prophecy, Joash gained victory 3 times, and after that he was destroyed. 2 Kings chapter 13 tells us that. And he clearly told them, you will gain victory 3 times, and after that you will lose all the land and your nation, your kingdom. Elisha was the national defense during that time. The one man, Elisha, was a great weapon. Why am I saying this? The congregation, believers of Pyeonggang Church, we believe in the living God. We believe in the Bible. And like the spiritual Elisha today, do not doubt. And the men of God are strong. Those who receive the love of God are strong. In a family, the children that have received the love of the parents grow up strong. And even the babies that are in the mother's bosom, in her breast, can be in peace, and they do not fear anything. And likewise, may all of you be strong and believe that our nation, Korea, is strong. Believe that. If you don't believe it, it's your loss. We cannot live 100 years. 25-year-old young ladies, after a few years, you get wrinkles around your eyes, and you may put eye cream, but it doesn't iron it out. After 30 years of age, before you get married, even birds that fly over your head won't look at you. And so don't be too confident, and don't be too picky. What's the use? I mean, the man can be rich, but he won't be rich forever. if he fails in his business, he will become poor all of a sudden. And all you need is a family that can pray for each other. And according to Proverbs, rather than being rich and being prosperous and fight each other all the time, it is better to be a little poor but live happily. And so don't be too picky, men or women. And they say they don't want to get married even when I introduce them, because their hearts are, they say their personalities don't match. And I say, when I prayed, you guys matched pretty well. And the man of prayer. Why is our church growing? It's because of the people who pray. It's amazing. It's powerful. Look at go to other churches. Their buildings are grandiose and just amazing. They have escalators in their churches, but not even a tree. But look at our church. First, my hearts are opened, just refreshed. And second, our nostrils are refreshed. The air is so nice. And look at all these nature, the trees. And so you need to learn to truly give thanks to God and realize. And even the trees, when they stand still, they die. And when the wind blows, the trees can move, and that's how they live. We human beings, people have to move